From the outside, the Whitaker family of Portland looked like something out of a Norman Rockwell painting a white house, with a wide porch, blue shutters, a manicured lawn, and 2 picture-perfect daughters. Anyone passing by would assume they were the embodiment of the American dream. But Mia, the eldest daughter, learned early that appearances could be deceptive. Her first memory of feeling different came when she was just 5. That day, her younger sister Brooke had accidentally broken a crystal vase in the living room. When their mother rushed in, Mia instinctively dropped to the floor, picking up the shards, and whispered, "I did it." Her mother stared at her for a second, then gave a slight nod as if it was simply expected. Later that evening, Mia overheard her mom on the phone. Mia's always so eager to please. Not like Brooke. Brooke has spirit. Spirit was the word her parents used to excuse Brooke's outbursts, her tantrums in the grocery store, her refusal to do homework, her attitude with teachers. Brooke was expressive. Mia, she was mechanical. She got straight A's without reminders, remembered every birthday, gave up the last slice of cake without being asked. But praise rarely came. When Brooke scored a B-, they celebrated like she'd won a medal. When Mia aced her exams, well, she's just naturally good at school. The favoritism was never loud, it was a constant drip. Brooke got the bigger bedroom. Brooke picked the restaurants on family nights. Her drawings filled the fridge while Mia's were tucked into a drawer. When she asked why, her father simply said, "Your sister needs more encouragement. You're already doing great." By the time Mia turned 12, she tried convincing herself she was just being too sensitive. But then one night she overheard an argument downstairs. "You always favor Brooke like you're trying to make up for Mia not being yours," her mother hissed. "You're no different, Linda," her father replied, voice cold. "We agreed from the start we'd never treat her differently." The sound of glass shattering as it slipped from Mia's hand silenced them both. She ran back to bed, heart pounding, pretending to sleep as her mother came to check on her. The word adopted lodged in Mia's brain like a silent blade. The next morning at breakfast, she waited for them to say something to explain, to reassure her. But all she got was a tight smile and a dismissive tone. "You must have been dreaming," her mother said flatly. That was the day Mia learned the golden rule of the Whitaker household. Truth mattered less than image. From that moment on, she stopped chasing love and started chasing approval. If she couldn't be loved for who she was, she would strive to be needed for what she achieved. In a family where affection came with conditions and approval was always earned, only one person looked at Mia with unwavering warmth: Grandma Eleanor, her adoptive mother's mother. Starting at age 13, Mia spent every summer at Eleanor's charming Victorian home outside Portland, filled with the smell of cinnamon-worn books and quiet tea rituals. It was the one place where she could just be herself. Unlike her parents who praised grades and polished behavior, Eleanor valued Mia's thoughts, emotions, and presence. No gold stars needed, no performance required. With Grandma, Mia was allowed to be sad, to speak her mind, and most importantly, to be heard. One evening when Mia was 15, as they sat reading on the porch swing, Eleanor tilted her head and said softly, "You have your mother's eyes." Mia froze. No one had ever mentioned her birth mother before. After a long pause, she asked, "You knew her?" Eleanor smiled, placing a gentle hand on Mia's. "A young woman who loved you very much but couldn't raise you. Someday when the time is right, I'll tell you everything." But someday kept moving. When Mia started college, Eleanor said, "After you graduate." When she finished Stanford with honors, it became, "Once you're settled in your career." After Mia launched her first tech company and secured funding, it was when the moment feels right. With every milestone, the story stayed tucked away, perhaps not because Eleanor didn't want to share, but because she wasn't ready to face her part in it. Even so, their bond deepened. Every Sunday morning, Mia and Eleanor met at their favorite cafe to talk about books, politics, startups, or sometimes just the best cinnamon roll recipe. With Eleanor, Mia felt a kind of love she had never received from her adoptive parents, unconditional, gentle, and real. Meanwhile, her relationship with Charles and Linda Whitaker grew colder. Holiday visits became strained surface-level conversations, forced compliments, and distant stares when Mia brought up work. With time, she accepted what she once fought against. No matter how successful she became, she would never be enough for them. The final fracture came at age 25. Mia had just launched a groundbreaking AI-powered medical platform. At Thanksgiving dinner, as relatives gathered, Eleanor beamed with pride. "I always knew Mia would do something extraordinary," she said. Linda gave a thin smile. "She's always been trying to prove something." "Prove?" Mia asked, caught off guard. "Well," Charles interjected, "it's common among adopted kids. They tend to overcompensate." It landed like a slap. After all the silence, all the denial, they had just confirmed what she always feared. She had never truly been their daughter, not by heart, and apparently not even by law. That night Mia walked out, and this time she never went back. The day of the accident started like any other. Mia was working late at her company's office in Portland, finalizing a critical update for their latest medical software. A cold December drizzle blanketed the streets, the kind that muted the world in grayscale. "You should head home," Rachel, her business partner and closest friend, urged gently. "It can wait until morning." But Mia had never been one to leave things unfinished. She finally packed up just before 10 p.m. The rain had intensified into a heavy downpour. Her apartment was just 15 minutes away. She told herself, what could happen in 15 minutes? The answer came in a flash. At the intersection of 17th and Grant, a known blind spot, a speeding SUV ran the red light and slammed into Mia's car. She remembered nothing but blinding headlights, a sickening crunch of metal, and the eerie sensation of spinning weightlessly. When paramedics arrived, Mia was unconscious. Her skull fractured, 3 ribs broken, clavicle shattered. Doctors placed her in a medically induced coma to reduce swelling around her brain. In one brief moment of semi-awareness, she heard someone say, "We've contacted her emergency contacts. They're on their way." Charles and Linda Whitaker arrived at the hospital shortly after. Dr. Chen, the attending neurologist, explained Mia's critical condition and the urgent need for surgery to prevent vision loss and further brain damage. "We need insurance information and a legal guardian's consent," she said. "She listed you both as her parents." Silence. Then Linda spoke, her voice disturbingly detached. "She's not our biological daughter. We're not responsible." Dr. Chen blinked. "But you're listed as emergency contacts. You raised her." Charles stepped in, cool and composed. "It was an informal adoption. The paperwork was never finalized. She's not legally our child." The doctor pressed again. "Without surgery, she could die." "Then don't operate," Charles replied. "I'm sure there's a state fund for indigent cases." Those words weren't just callous, they were a death sentence spoken by the man who was once called Dad. Mia lay paralyzed, trapped in her body, hearing every word like shards of glass cutting into her soul. The truth, always lurking beneath the surface, now screamed with terrifying clarity. They had never truly loved her, and now they were leaving her to die. Before leaving, Charles told the nurse, "About my mother's will, she wasn't of sound mind. We'll be contesting that soon." They hadn't come to save her. They came to calculate what they could take. If it hadn't been for Grace Davis, the compassionate night nurse who stayed by Mia's side, talking, playing music, refusing to leave her alone, Mia might have drifted away in total silence. 3 days later, Rachel arrived, signed emergency treatment authorization, and brought in a lawyer to protect Mia's rights. Mia once believed emotional neglect was the worst pain. But now she knew love can be faked, but abandonment at the edge of death is unarguably real. Mia woke from surgery to a splitting headache and a brain that felt suspended between worlds. But more importantly, she was alive. For the first time in days of darkness, she felt the flicker of light not just from the overhead lamp, but from the gentle voice beside her. "You made it," Mia said, Grace, the nurse who never left her side. "The operation was a success. Dr. Chen says the swelling has gone down. They'll start bringing you out of sedation tomorrow." Recovery was grueling. Sitting up made her vomit from dizziness. Her first steps with the physical therapist left her sweating and crying. But Mia didn't quit. She wasn't just fighting to regain movement, she was fighting to reclaim her right to exist, to matter. In the second week at the hospital, Rachel, her business partner and friend, sat beside her bed and dropped a bombshell. "Your adoptive parents have filed for emergency conservatorship." Mia stared at her. "They claim your brain injury makes you unfit to manage the estate, and they want to help." Mia let out a bitter laugh. Of course. They had left her to die, and now they wanted to exploit her survival to take everything Eleanor had left her. She motioned for her phone and asked Rachel to contact Harold Benton, her grandmother's longtime attorney. The next day, Harold arrived carrying a thick file and a sealed envelope. "Eleanor left this for you," he said gently. If anything ever happened to her before she could tell you herself, Mia waited until the room was quiet before she opened it. Inside a handwritten letter and official documents, her original birth certificate listing Caroline Walker as her mother, adoption papers signed by Charles and Linda, an amended certificate reflecting her new name. The letter began, "My dearest Mia," and ended with, "I thought giving you to family was the right choice. But maybe I was wrong not to protect you longer. No matter what they said, you've always been my blood, and I've loved you like my own." When she finished reading, Mia didn't cry out of pain. She cried because the truth had finally given her the validation she had spent her life aching for. The next morning, she sat up straighter than usual. "I need my laptop," she told Rachel. "What for?" Rachel asked. "A plan," Mia said, her eyes cold and steady. "If they want a legal war, they'll find I'm not the scared girl begging for their love anymore. I'm someone with power now." From her hospital bed, Mia launched her counterattack. She confirmed her legal adoption status with Harold, filed a request for security footage from the hospital showing her parents refusing treatment, hired a security firm to change locks and install cameras at Eleanor's house, backed up all documentation and videos to a secure cloud. Now the truth was no longer just a scar, it was a weapon. As Mia's body healed, her mind grew sharper. And with every gain in strength, a quiet fury rose not just from being rejected, but from watching the truth be deliberately erased. Her adoptive parents hadn't just turned away, they had tried to erase her legal identity to steal what wasn't theirs. But Mia didn't need a face-to-face confrontation. She understood now real power is speaking the truth at the right time, even if you're not in the room. A week after discharge, Rachel brought Mia to a temporary apartment. On the living room wall, Mia built her war board files, photos, timelines, legal references. Her laptop became mission control. "You shouldn't be pushing yourself this hard," Rachel said gently. "You need to rest." "I will," Mia replied. "Once this is done." The hardest task wasn't legal, it was emotional. Writing the final letter, the letter to Charles and Linda. She drafted it 20 times. One version was filled with fury, another read like a legal brief. None of them felt right. Then one evening during a therapy session with Dr. Marlowe, her psychologist came the question, "What do you really want from them, Mia?" "I want them to admit what they did, not just at the hospital, but my whole life. And if they never do," Mia paused, then exhaled, "then I want to stop needing them to." That night she wrote the final version. It was clear, precise, sharp but not cruel. She addressed them by name, Charles and Linda, no longer mom and dad. She listed every betrayal, referenced hospital footage, and attached legal proof of her adoption. And in the middle of all that, she wrote a line that made her tear up herself. "I forgive you, not because you deserve forgiveness, but because I deserve peace. I no longer need your love, your approval, or your apology. I am whole without them." She included a USB drive with the hospital footage, copies of adoption papers, and her original birth certificate. The envelope was sealed and handed to Harold, her attorney. "Place it on the dining table at Eleanor's house," she instructed, "right before they arrive to collect what's theirs." "You're sure?" Harold asked. Mia nodded. "I don't need to be there. Let them face the truth with no one to gaslight, no one to manipulate." At exactly 2:00 p.m. on Saturday, Charles and Linda Whitaker's silver Mercedes pulled into the driveway of Eleanor's old Victorian home, once a symbol of legacy, now a battleground for truth. Inside on the oak dining table where holidays were once staged, Mia's letter waited quiet, immovable, and damning. Through the home's new security cameras, Mia and Rachel watched every movement from a laptop across town. Mia's hands didn't tremble. She was ready. The front door wouldn't budge. "What's wrong with the lock?" Charles grumbled. "This is my mother's house," was Charles. Brooke, Mia's younger sister, corrected gently. It was hers. A locksmith was called. Minutes later, the door opened. All three stepped inside. Linda immediately darted toward the glass cabinet. "The crystal vase is still here." "Good." Brooke frowned. "We're supposed to be here for mementos, not for treasure hunting." "Don't be naive," Linda snapped. "Mia's never going to recover enough to claim this place. The judge will hand it to us." They walked into the dining room and stopped. An envelope rested neatly in the center of the table. Charles picked it up. "My name. That's my mother's handwriting." Linda snatched it and tore it open. As she read the first few lines, her face drained of color. "What is it?" Charles asked. Wordlessly, she passed him the letter. He skimmed it and his face twisted in disbelief. "This is outrageous lies." Brooke grabbed the pages. Her eyes scanned the opening lines until she saw a bolded link. She pulled out her phone and typed in the address. On screen appeared the security footage from the hospital. "She's not our daughter. Don't treat her. She's not our responsibility." Silence fell like a curtain. Then Brooke's voice cracked the stillness. "You left her to die." Her voice trembled. Charles tried to recover. "It was all a misunderstanding. We were just shocked. And then you filed for conservatorship 3 days later," she snapped. "That's not shock. That's strategy." Linda collapsed into a dining chair, hands clutching her temples. "What do we do now?" she whispered. Charles jumped to damage control, calling their attorney, insisting the letter was slander, the video doctored. But Brooke stood slowly, eyes filled not just with anger but disgust. "No one edited your voices saying she wasn't your daughter. No one invented that coldness that was all you." She gathered every document Mia had left and stood tall. "I won't protect you, and I won't call you family anymore." Brooke walked out the front door. No one stopped her, because they knew the masks had fallen. The text came the night everything fell apart. "Mia, it's Brooke. We need to talk. Please." Mia stared at the message, head still throbbing, but heart pounding harder than it had in weeks. After a long moment, she replied, 10 a.m. tomorrow. Hawthorne Cafe. Corner table. The next morning, Mia arrived on time, leaning on her cane, slowly making her way through the glass doors. Brooke was already seated, 2 steaming cups of coffee on the table. She stood as Mia approached, hesitating between a hug and a nod. They settled on a quiet nod. Mia sat down, her expression steady, not hostile but cautious. "You wanted to talk?" "Talk." Brooke slid a cup toward her. "Black. 1 sugar." Mia raised an eyebrow. "You remembered." "You're the one who taught me to drink coffee," Brooke said softly, "and how to write college applications, and how to ride a bike." Mia didn't reply. Her eyes remained guarded. "I didn't know about the hospital," Brooke continued, voice trembling. "I swear I didn't know they did that to you." Mia nodded slowly. "I believe you. She held Brooke's gaze. But you need to understand, 28 years, I was always the outsider. Every effort I made was met with silence. You got unconditional love. I had to earn every ounce of attention. Brooke lowered her eyes. I thought it was because you were the strong one, the smart one. I never realized they didn't see you as their daughter. You're my sister, Mia said. Not because of blood, because we lived together. You get to choose whether that still means something. I choose it, Brooke said without hesitation. I can't change the past, but I want to rebuild the present if you'll let me. Mia was silent for a long beat. Then she gave a single nod. We start over, small steps. Brooke smiled, and for the first time in years, it didn't feel forced. And in that little cafe without DNA tests or family titles without needing anyone's permission, a sisterhood quietly began again, not from obligation, but from choice. 3 weeks after that cafe meeting, the court's decision arrived. Harold, Mia's attorney, called with a calm but satisfied tone. The judge denied their conservatorship request. The hospital footage was undeniable. Mia gave a quiet nod. No cheering, no triumph. This wasn't a win to celebrate, it was a door closing so another could finally open, one free from control. Days later, more news followed Charles, and Linda had quietly withdrawn from all estate challenges. Their legal team stepped away, too unable to defend the moral grounds for their actions at the hospital. They're retreating in silence, Harold remarked. Silence is all they have left, Mia replied. Meanwhile, Brooke remained by her side, not out of obligation, but out of choice. She moved into the east wing of Eleanor's house, where Mia was beginning a new chapter. The old house needed repairs, but Mia kept nearly everything original: the wooden ceilings, the stained glass windows, the porch swing where she and Eleanor once read books. She didn't want to erase the past, she wanted to build something from what real love had left behind. Every evening she and Brooke shared dinner, sometimes talking, sometimes just existing quietly together. They didn't try to go back to how it was because they knew what they were building wasn't a revival, it was something entirely new. At the same time, Mia's company was regaining momentum. Rachel, her behind-the-scenes co-founder, had kept it steady. Together, they began developing a new medical software inspired by Mia's own coma, a system that could detect awareness in unresponsive patients using eye movement and brainwave patterns. The name Rachel asked. Bridget, Mia said. A bridge between silence and life. Each passing day, Mia realized she no longer needed to win. She didn't need her parents to admit guilt. She didn't crave apologies or recognition. All she needed was to live without constantly proving her worth. One evening, sitting on the front porch as golden light spilled through the stained glass, Mia smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because for the first time in nearly 30 years, she belonged fully to her own life. Spring arrived late that year, but for Mia, it felt like a season of rebirth. Eleanor's house, now Mia's true home, began to come alive, the smell of Brooke's cinnamon baking in the old kitchen. Rachel's laughter echoing through the hallways, and the gentle voice of Grace, the nurse, who once stayed by Mia's side, now a loyal friend. They weren't bound by blood, but each of them had chosen to stay when Mia was at her lowest, when she rose again, and when all she had was the raw truth. Every Sunday morning, Mia hosted a small backyard brunch. The old wooden chairs were newly painted, the lace tablecloth belonged to Eleanor, and the teacups carried stories. Harold, her steadfast attorney, would sometimes bring red wine and tales from his years working alongside Eleanor. "You've built a family here," he once said, eyes soft with pride. Mia smiled. "A chosen family. And I've never been prouder." Brooke, still carrying scars of her own, tried her best each day. They had honest conversations about their unequal childhood, about the silence Mia had endured alone. But they also baked together, binge-watched terrible reality shows, and laughed deep into the night. Grace, now working for a home care organization, visited, often bringing fresh flowers, silly stories, and sometimes a long wordless hug that said more than anything else could. And Rachel wasn't just a friend. She had kept Mia alive literally and emotionally. Together they ran the company. Together they shared a vision. The Bridge App project was taking shape not just as a medical tool, but as a bridge between humanity and healing, between silence and possibility. 1 year after the accident, Mia hosted a quiet dinner to honor what she called her rebirth day. No fanfare, just the people who stood by her when everything fell apart. No one mentioned Charles or Linda. No one needed to. Raising her glass in the soft glow of candlelight and shared laughter, Mia said, "Here's to family not by blood or by law, but by choice, by presence, and by real love." To family, they echoed. And in that moment, Mia knew family isn't where you come from. It's where you're truly loved.